Ladies, gents, what is up? Can you see me okay? I think you can. Right, Friday evening, which means I have a bit more time in the gym than I normally do. So I'm gonna bring the camera, which is right in front of me now, and I hope that sun isn't too irritating. But yeah, so I'm gonna bring you to the gym. I'm gonna film some of my leg training, alright? So I've been a bit kind of slack on recording my training as of recent because the majority of my sessions throughout the week I have to kind of rush into like between about 7 in the morning until 8 a.m. So I rarely have more than an hour to train. And that means that I have to kind of fit a lot of my training into a very short period of time, which isn't ideal when you're trying to focus on actually getting results. So I just like to prioritize and execute during that time and try not to waste a whole pile of time. Not that recording content for you guys would be a waste of my time. So yeah, today we're prioritizing getting a bit more training footage. And also a very simple tip for students or for anyone that does feel like they're busy and stuck for time. Put your most challenging sessions on the days that you know you have the most time, but also on the days that you feel are like the least stressful for you. So I like Fridays because, you know, I finish at like 3 and I know that I have that evening to kind of do things as I wish without thinking about, you know, the college I have tomorrow and the schedule I have tomorrow and stuff, because you know, from here on throughout the weekend, while I am working all weekend, it's kind of more my own structure and there's a bit more kind of fluidity, a bit more choice in what I have to do. So there's a little bit lower stress. So yeah, it's a very simple tip, but a lot of people don't do it. You know, a lot of people try and train 7 days a week and, you know, they have these ideals in their mind where they're like, oh, I want to do 30 set workouts, and it's like, but you don't have the time, you know? And if your body's constantly in that stress state throughout the week and you're doing your most difficult sessions then you're not in the best place to actually recover from those sessions either. So the best days of the week to put your most challenging sessions are either on or before the days that you can chill out the most. So those days are going to allow you to recover a bit better and adapt from your training, because it's not just about doing the training, it's about adapting from it. So structuring your training in accordance with when you're going to be able to recover best is a pretty good idea. Right, so we're going to go in and hit some legs. I'm currently in a strength focused phase, and just to give a bit of a recap on this week. This week was kind of a bit of a deload for me. I don't like that word, or a recovery week. So I increased my calories a touch. So I'm eating between 3,400 and 3,800 calories per day, and this week I spent a bit more time in that higher end of the calorie range to allow for some greater recovery. I cut down some of the cardiovascular work I was doing this week. I kind of made an effort to pull my steps back as well and chill out in the evenings a bit more, or not just chill out, but not consciously go out to get my steps up, rather just relax a little bit more. And along with that, I brought down my training volume and put in a little bit less effort in the gym this week and took an extra rest day, all with the goal of allowing my body some time to recover, because I had been pushing quite hard in the gym for about 8 weeks, and because I was coming off the end of a diet and stuff, I had accumulated a little bit of fatigue. So yeah, we were in a calorie surplus. As you know, it's my 4th week of gaining, so this week I had expected to gain a bit more body fat. You know, I knew that pushing into a calorie surplus or further into a calorie surplus while reducing my training volume was going to put me into more of a surplus and hence lead to a little bit more body fat accumulation this week. But like, I'm cool with that. You know, I don't mind putting on a small bit of body fat because I know that I'm in control of that, and that if I do get to the point where I feel I've put on too much body fat, it's just a case of adjusting my nutrient intake or my activity and pulling back again. You know, it's not a big deal for me. I understand that for some of you it may not be as simple as that, but for me it's just a case of adjusting variables. And this week, in order to recover, those excess calories done me quite good. Although I don't feel I gained a whole pile of body fat, and my weight doesn't really show that either. I do feel that I am a little bit fluffier, but nothing excessive. So the plan is to continue kind of gaining strength in the more like 5 to 8 rep range for the next maybe 4 or 5 weeks, around that period of time, before progressing to some higher rep ranges again. So the goal being that this lower volume phase, more strength focused phase, is going to allow me to develop some more muscular strength that I can then carry over to my higher volume phase by allowing me to lift more weights, or lift heavier weights rather, for greater amounts of volume, and hence allow me to accumulate some more hypertrophy, so hopefully with the goal of gaining some more muscle mass. So that is one of the strategies I kind of use. Like, it's obviously a very simplistic level explanation of it, but I just like to kind of, as Paddy was talking on his last video as well, cycle between rep ranges. So I'll typically work between 6 to 8 or 5 to 8, around there, rarely lower, and then that kind of 10 to 12 range as well. And I'm not sure if Paddy's so into it, but I do like pushing towards 12 to 20 on some exercises as well. I'm pretty sure Paddy would agree with that, especially on the lower body. What's happening, family? Today on the menu we have back training. So I'm just sipping on some pre-workout, which I normally don't do a whole pile, but the guys over at, I'm not sure if you can see me, the focus has gone really weird in this. I hope it's on me. Yeah, but the guys at HP Nutrition sent me this, the Reflex Nutrition Muscle Bomb, and I was kind of like, I like my coffee pre-workout, and I like to kind of use up my caffeine for the day on coffee as opposed to like a pre-workout supplement. But then I realized that it was caffeine free, so I was like, gonna give it a go. And yeah, it's good stuff. The dosing of the actual ingredients I would look for in a pre-workout is pretty decent, and to be honest, the only thing I'm like concerned with like pre-training really is citrulline malate, because I believe that has kind of the most evidence behind it in terms of actually showing benefits. You know, the thing with a lot of like pre-workout supplement ingredients is that they tend to be like, you know, theoretical, like they make sense theoretically, and you know, they have mechanisms through which they work, and it all seems very logical, and you can make lots of different claims, but like, you have to actually ask yourself, you know, does it actually play out in practice? Like, am I noticing a difference in the gym? And when you look at, you know, research, randomized control trials, you know, do people actually see like changes in performance through supplementing with whatever ingredient? Like, that's what's actually important. And citrulline malate tends to kind of hold pretty tough. I'm not sure if I have toothpaste. Is it toothpaste? I don't know. Yeah, so citrulline malate is a good one. There's beta-alanine in this as well, but sorry, to get back to citrulline malate, there's 8 grams in a 30 gram serving, which is actually pretty decent. That's kind of the dose I would be looking for, and that seems to be the dose that's used in most of the research that actually highlights benefits. So 8 grams is kind of what I'd be aiming for. Beta-alanine, I don't like it. It may be of benefit, probably not during my current training phase, but if you are working with more like higher repetition ranges, beta-alanine may be a useful kind of buffer, a pH buffer, and to help to get an extra rep or two in the higher rep ranges. So that may be beneficial, but I'm not overly convinced that it's going to be useful if you're training in the lower rep ranges, kind of towards strength. And then there's some beta-ine and hydras in here. So yeah, beta-ine and hydras, one of the components in here. So that beta-ine, you know, it has been hypothesized to have some effects towards muscle gain and things like that. But in terms of health, it's a kind of a decent enough supplement as well. It does kind of have some implications for muscle gain as well, such as things related to insulin signaling. But there are also some other kind of vitamins and things that are implicated in that methylation, and basically, like, it all just comes back to what Paddy was saying in the last video, you know, eat your fucking veggies. So a broad spectrum of vegetables in your diet. If you want to focus particularly on getting some beta-ine in, get loads of beetroot in your diet and you'll be just fine. But yeah, you know, any of the things we ever speak about supplementation, if we ever do kind of speak about it a bit more, we tend not to. You can get a lot through your diet, alright? So really just focus on getting your vegetable intake up, and you will get a lot more of those vitamins that tend to work and help each other. Because, you know, you can go on about like beta-ine and its importance for like that whole homocysteine thing I was talking about, but it's like, all right, yeah, that betaine, it's all very well and good, but there are other things that actually support that process. And if you have more folic acid, you can actually spare some of that betaine. And all of the vitamin and mineral stuff and supplementation, it's all very well to talk about it theoretically, but what people don't do is kind of speak about it holistically. So it's always like a focus on one thing as opposed to a focus on a lot of things, which is why our general guidance is just to eat a very nutrient dense, varied diet. Because sometimes people will focus on supplementation, and what they'll do is they'll push one thing way up, and then they don't realize that, oh yeah, by pushing that one thing up, you actually need more of another thing to then support that. All right, so like that's obviously a very simplistic overview, and there are like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different examples of that within the human body, which is why it's best to actually put that complexity of different things into some very simple principles for people to follow. And the rest, we're really looking at kind of amino acids and some carbohydrates in there too. I'm not a big fan of supplemental amino acids really, unless I haven't eaten for a while. And right now that actually suits me pretty well, because I'm kind of eating my breakfast about 3 hours before training. So having some amino acids around the training window may be mildly beneficial from a hypertrophy perspective. I don't think it's going to make the world of difference, and I don't generally recommend people supplement with amino acids. But overall, I think this is a fairly decent product if someone is looking for a stimulant-free pre-workout, which I was actually after, so I'm pretty happy with that. Just a reminder as well, some of these supplements, guys, pre-workouts, do actually contain calories, okay? So a lot of people have a tendency to just kind of, brush these things aside and think that they're calorie-free, A serving of this, if you have 30 grams to get your 8 grams of citrulline malate, will cost you 100 calories, all right? So be mindful of that. But yeah, I like it overall, and thanks to the guys at HP Nutrition. I've been a long-term friends of Jer and Jamie below in HP Nutrition, so I actually really like kind of buying stuff from them when I'm buying things that aren't available on my protein. Being honest, I get most of my protein or my supplements from my protein or iHerb. Okay, so kind of iHerb for the more health focused supplements, just because the quality tends to be a bit better. My protein for my actual protein or creatine or acetyl L-carnitine, and then kind of if I'm looking for things like protein bars or anything along those lines, or a bit more of the kind of more commercial stuff and nut butters and things like that, HP Nutrition is a good place to check out. So yeah, anyway, sipping on that, and then we're about to go and train back. And I wanted to discuss something very quickly in relation to the workout that you are about to see, because I think everyone, and we're obviously big enforcers of this, everyone's always worried about kind of, the optimal strategy to training and actually structuring things optimally all the time. And that's actually a really good thought process. Obviously, if you are someone that is really looking to optimize your progress, you should wish to do things as optimally as possible. But there does come kind of a stage as well where it's like, are you actually enjoying what you're doing? Like today I'm doing barbell rows as my first exercise, so my kind of primary predictor lift or heaviest lift of the day. And I've spoken about this in the past, where I don't think barbell rows are all that they're dressed up to be in terms of being like the best back builder or whatever. Like I don't think they're the best exercise in the world. And I do actually think the seated row in UL is a better exercise. So you might think, and I've said it in the past, that it would make sense for me to do that seated row first all the time and leave barbell rows for later and get the most out of that seated row. But I've been doing that for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'm just kind of looking for a little bit of excitement, a little bit of spicing up my training. So barbell rows going first for a few weeks. Is it necessarily optimal? Maybe not. Is it going to make more than a 1% difference? No. All right. So sometimes you do have to be willing to kind of take a step back and think, all right, maybe something isn't optimal, but it's fun and it's going to help me adhere to my training and actually enjoy the process of it a bit more. I'm big into that with clients, is encouraging people to actually enjoy their training and to give me feedback on what we're programming, because I don't want people to think that I've just given them the perfect plan and they need to stick to it rigidly and it's going to give them the best results in the world, Because that's not necessarily true if someone isn't enjoying their training. When people enjoy their training, they actually adhere to it better and they put more effort into it because they're in a good mood in the gym, they're motivated, they're seeing progress, they're motivated to add more weight to the bar, and they're not feeling like negative feelings when they're in the gym. Because I've had this report from clients where people say, oh, you know, we've been doing, you know, this exercise for 6 weeks, and I just need a bit of variety. So then it's just a case of me having a conversation with them that, all right, no problem, we can make those changes. But what you have to understand is that varying your exercises too often may not be optimal for your progress, okay? It may not lead to the best hypertrophy outcomes. And then people will generally say, that's okay, you know, because we're not all here to get every last 1% of muscle, all right? That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to enjoy the process. I'm here to stay healthy. I like my training to enhance my life, and feeling good in the gym and feeling good after and looking forward to training is something that I am big on and something that I always want to be present. So I don't always design my programming to be 100% optimal, all right? I just don't. I design my programming with, my goals in mind, but also with actually enjoying training in mind. So, you know, I'm doing a good bit of cardiovascular work at the moment. I'm kind of working on my cardiovascular conditioning, and that's not necessarily optimal for hypertrophy right now. And I might be able to get better hypertrophy / strength outcomes if I was to cut out my current cardiovascular work and allocate all of my recovery capacity towards strength training. But I'm like, nah, I actually enjoy my cardio work. It contributes to my health. And long term, I actually want to have some goals in place in that area, while also, you know, maintaining my strength and hypertrophy goals. So, you know, recognize where you are, recognize where your goals lie, how seriously you're actually taking things, okay? You don't always have to feel like you have to, you know, have this optimal bodybuilding program, or you have to, you know, optimize your nutrition so specifically that every meal is planned to the minute. That's not what this is all about. It's about enjoying the process. If you enjoy the process, you'll put more effort in. You'll be able to stay in the game a bit longer. Anyway, man, I'm in a good mood. Time to go and train back. I really enjoy training back, so let's go and hit up some training.
Okay, so started off this workout with a barbell row. And we're working with quite low reps here for an exercise like this. So you will see me using probably a bit more momentum than I would normally use, purely because I'm trying to overload the mid-trap to rhomboid region, and they are going to respond better to heavier weights in this exercise since they're being challenged indirectly due to the load. But overall, control is still maintained. Similarly here with the dumbbell row, probably using a bit more momentum than we normally use on exercises. But what I want you to notice is that as I bring up the dumbbell quite aggressively, what I'm not doing is bringing my body down towards the dumbbell at the top, which is what you'll see a lot of people do. They let their body flop and just use momentum to use the weight. Whereas what I'm actually doing is allowing the lat to work up into its shortened range, and then towards the end of the set, I'm reaching technical failure in terms of the full range. So what I'll do is perform some partial reps to allow for some extra overload. And then it's on an exercise like this that is built for better for control into the shortened range, that I'm using that more slow and controlled tempo right into the shortened range. So what I'm doing here is thinking about driving my elbows down as I'm pulling. So I'm starting by pulling the elbows down and pinching those scapula back as hard as possible to ensure we're getting the lats into the shortened range and also challenging those scapular retractors. But I do make a modification to this exercise in a second, as you will see.
I got myself a saddle. I'll explain the purpose of the saddle in the voiceover.
So what I've got here is a little bit of a saddle. So I've rolled up a yoga mat to sit on to elevate me a bit further, because what this allows me to do is hold on to the top of the handles, which are narrower. This then means that I'm able to keep my elbows tighter to my sides and hence shorten the lats further. But also, by being more elevated, you can see that I've got a very large angle at the elbow joint, meaning there's a minimal involvement at the biceps and that there's a larger moment arm to the lats. So there's a greater challenge on those back muscles into their shortened range. And then from there, we moved on to a wide grip lat pull down, which is an exercise I haven't done for a while. And what you'll see is that at the start of each rep, my focus is on locking those shoulder blades down hard. So I'm allowing for a stretch at the top of each rep to get those lats into a stretch position. And then I'm pinching them down and back as I pull, and then the elbows are coming out and down thereafter, okay? A lot of people tend to grip too wide here, okay? So if your forearms are at an angle as opposed to vertical in the bottom position, and you're feeling your biceps work a lot, then what I would consider is bringing your grip in a bit, or if you notice that it's quite narrow, bring it out a bit. Then onto this single arm cable row, which is really excellent exercise for challenging the lats into their shortened range. And I do like to add in a bit more volume when I'm using those exercises like the single arm dumbbell row and the barbell row, where a little more momentum is used. So the goal here is to rotate the trunk toward the side that you're rowing with. What this allows for is full shortening of the lat unilaterally, because as the elbow comes toward the side and back toward the hip, the lat is shortening, but also because there's obviously a lat on each side of the body, it also rotates because of its attachment points, so you can really get into that fully shortened position if you allow for a slight bit of trunk rotation, which isn't possible in normal bilateral exercises.